Hi there, welcome to another painting tutorial. In this video, we're going to paint a lily pad and a flower, so let's get started. Let's start with a size 5 flat brush, and we want to get our initial wash down. So I'm going to take this yellow color. This is a lemon yellow, and I want to put this down for the first layer. Let's spray the paper. The fine mist sprayer, and that's just going to help our paint flow a little bit more easily. We're just getting a nice wash down to start with. And if you want to paint along, you can just grab this sketch in the description below. Just follow that link. Okay, so we're just putting that yellow down quickly, and we can put it down the stem as well. And then we could put it over the lily pad also. So yellow makes a nice underpainting because it can give kind of a glowing effect as it shows through the paint layers that you put on top of it. And we're going to be doing green. We're going to use a lot of green paint, so the yellow is a nice complement to green because it's one of the colors that make up the color green. When you mix the yellow and the blue, you get green. Okay, so we have that nice wash down. Now let's put in some defining lines, and let's switch brushes. I have a size 0 spotter brush here. I want to just put in some darker lines. Let's start with this beautiful magenta color. Then I want to put in some dark lines around this part of the flower. It's a really bright, pretty color. Okay, so that looks good. Now let's do some darker values on this lily pad. And I have this dark evergreen color. So let's put that down here as kind of a shadow. We'll come around here. And then we could put it underneath as a dark shadow underneath. Okay, and if you want to take your time, I'm painting fairly fast when I do these videos, so if you want to pause the video at any time, just go ahead and do that. And then you can take your time. Okay, let's take that dark green and put it on this area here. So it's kind of the stamen in the center of the flower. There's a lot of dark shadow there, so we'll add that in. Okay, so now I want to take some gray paint. This is just a gray paint, craft paint that I found at the store. And I want to put in some darker kind of outlining on some of these petals here. Then I'm going to kind of feather it up a little bit. And that's just going to give me a little bit of form and dimension. But I don't want to cover the yellow area down here because that's going to be, you want that to stay light and bright as a center. And gray can be kind of a dark color. And remember, your acrylic paints, they're just going to dry a little bit darker as well. So always try to keep that in mind when you're working with acrylics. Okay, so I'm just adding some outlining and some shadows just along these petals. And right here on the sketch, I put a little X in some of these areas, and that's just to mark the darker values to make it a little bit easier to remember where those are. Okay, it's kind of a shadow of the petal underneath there. And some of that pink paint is kind of mixing in with the gray, but that's okay. It's going to help give a little bit more variety. And that could even look nice. Okay, so I'm going to take that darker evergreen shade and then put that here as a shadow on the lily pad. And then I'm going to add a little bit to the stem here. Could put this darker value at the top to kind of denote a shadow, and then put some around the edges and then at the bottom there. Okay, and let's do a little bit more shading around this edge. See if you can add kind of dark value around the edge, and then see if you could blend it in towards the center. I'm going to rinse off my brush so that I have a damp brush, and then I want to try to blend that in a little bit. This is kind of tricky because that paint is just drying so fast. It's because it's acrylic. But I want to try to make some of these darker lines and darker values. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit more gray onto this area to the right of this petal. Just kind of putting some shadows in there where they need to be. Okay, so you could let that dry. I would let that dry completely before moving on to the next step. Okay, so next I want to add some detail to the center of the flower. And I want to do this with a nice small brush. This is a size 0 round brush, and it's got a really fine tip. And I'm going to take a chocolatey brown. It's kind of like a burnt sienna color. And I want to put that in the center. And I'm just doing kind of a squiggly line, trying to make it fairly random. And basically, I'm just trying to make some little tiny shapes inside this flower here. They're kind of going from the center out towards the edge. Okay, so that looks nice. Now let's take this bright green. This is a neon green, and I'm going to add it right into the center of these little stamens. Okay. And then I want to take some of this green and put it over the lily pad. So I have a size 5 flat brush. Let's see if we can make a glaze. So kind of water down that electric green color, and then see if we can glaze that on top of this lily pad. It's a really bright, vibrant green shade. Okay, so I think that looks nice. Okay, that looks nice and painterly. And since that's not the focal point, we could even kind of leave it at that. Maybe add a little bit more detail at the end, but not much more. Okay, so now let's take, I have a size 6 filbert, and let's see if we can add some white to the flowers. So I have a titanium white on my palette, and that's a really nice opaque white. Let's see if we can add this white So I want it to cover up the layer underneath, but I want some of it to still show through. Okay, and if your magenta, like mine is on there kind of thick, it might kind of blend with your white paint a little bit. But if it does that a little bit, it's okay as well, because it can kind of give you a nice effect. I need some more white paint. Okay, so I'm kind of trying to move my hand so that I can bring the strokes down into the direction that I want them to be. And you can go ahead and move your paper to do that. It could be easier to kind of rotate the paper instead of turn your arm around. Okay, so I'm just taking that white. Now I'm pretty thick. Since I grabbed some new paint, it's just a little thicker on the brush. I'm just going over these petals. And I want to leave kind of some of the edges darker so that they show up against that white paper. I could try doing this on a darker paper and I think it would look really pretty. Whoops, we got a lot of pink there, but that's okay. I'm just gonna kind of blend that in and call it, as Bob Ross would say, a happy accident. Okay, so then while that's still a little bit wet, you could take a little bit of this magenta and then you can intentionally kind of feather in some of that pink paint. Just get some really beautiful colors going. And then I have this makeup brush, and what I can do is just kind of see if I can kind of smooth and blend some of that pink that I just did. Just a little bit of blending. Okay. So let's take some white paint and then go around. I want to add a few little highlights to this in white. So just a few highlights here and there. Okay. So at this point, I would kind of go back and see if there were any kind of darker areas that you wanted to add. I have this really dark purple color, and you could pop this in some areas to kind of make your focal point. Well, it's just gonna up the intensity of the value scale that you have going on. Okay, so then I would let that white dry completely. And then after that dries, take a little bit of bright yellow paint. And I would dust over some of that white. Okay. Okay, so I think we're gonna call that complete. Take your time, pause the video, and add any more detail that you feel that your piece might need, but I'm gonna stop that for now. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you got to paint along with me. Please like this video so others can find it. Please subscribe to see more painting videos. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.